hood, and how I came to start kind of penciling and why I do the work that I do, and why I feel like it's so necessary for me to write these poems, you know. I grew up in a small apartment in Eastside San Jose. My block was the one that kids would always make fun of when they talked about bad neighborhoods. Everybody always told my grandmother we had to move, that it wasn't safe living in our area. As a kid, I saw everything with innocence. Never did I question why everybody thought about my neighborhood as something bad. I never asked my grandmother why we had to wake up so early to go into people's trash cans collecting bottles and cans. My abuela never sat me down and explained to me that we were undocumented and poor. There was never any clear language that explained our situation. To my abuela, this was life, whether we liked it or not. These were the cards we were dealt with. So instead of questioning and dwelling on the things that we did not have, we were grateful for our hands and our ability to work. I think about my house a lot. This small 2-bedroom apartment we call home. I think about for the longest time I slept on the living room floor next to my grandmother. Every night we shared this hard floor. She would talk to me until sleep took over. It was in this crowded apartment with white stained walls, mixed max furniture, and cucarachas that I began to write my first poems. I had to drown the sound of the loud novelas on the TV, lock myself in the bathroom, and pen down my thoughts. It was in this ghetto-ass neighborhood that I learned about community. The lady in el apartamento 40 will hustle sodas out of her house. The one on the 37 will babysit your kids. And the lady on the other building could connect you with someone that could give you a green card. This was my block. Every apartment filled with a different story. Every family from a different place in Mexico. But we all had the common understanding that this was not our home, that we had to help each other. We were strangers in a strange place. It was on this block filled with immigrants, raza, corridos, y borracheras that I learned about stories and the language we used to tell them. Abuela would feed the neighborhood jornaleros that came to the U.S. to work seasonally. I used to hate my house between the hours of 6 and 9 because 12 men would come into our small apartment to have dinner. Among their noise and the TV, I never really had space to write, but their conversations would seep into my thoughts, and I began to hear the message in each of these men's stories. These men laughed, joked, talked about their families back home and how difficult it was to find a job here. They would even ask me to teach them basic sentences in English so they could communicate with their bosses. As a child, never did I think my life as an anthropological study. In my mind, this was life. Everyone I knew lived like this. I'm older now, no longer the fat boy running around barefoot playing cops and robbers. I've learned to define who I am by words that sometimes feel heavy on my tongue and even heavier on my spirit. I learn about systems of oppression and privilege. I'm a poet now. I tell stories. My abuelita still can't believe that people pay me to speak to them, to tell them of where I come from. Pussy girl, get the point. It amazes her that so many people follow my work, so she believes it's a blessing that people want to hear about our lives. I tell her she's a poet too, that she is the reason why I write, but she does not think much of my silly words. For her, the only thing that matters is that I'm a good person and do my part to help others. Oftentimes, I find myself caught between the access my poetry has granted me and the reality of my existence. No doubt that I've been blessed that people see their lives reflected in my words, but I still find it hard to believe that as I'm praised and celebrated, I come home to a neighborhood where nothing seems to change. I sit in classrooms where people call each other out on their privileges. I see students brown like me, in neighborhoods similar like mine, trying to survive in these classrooms where the discourse around our lives is made to seem as something distant and disconnected from our intellect. It is in these places, located in lands far from our neighborhoods, that so many of us come into an understanding of struggle means. We learn new language, write papers about global struggles, organize around social issues, and yet when we come home to the blocks that we have known since babies, we can't seem to even talk to our neighbors. School does not teach us how to have heart-to-heart conversation or how to work beyond the so-called problematic language that our community speak in. We get caught up in the semantics of who we are as people that often we forget that while language is something that needs to be checked, our people will show you they care not by words but in the actions they demonstrate. I'm older now. Learned that most of my life lessons in this street. This place everybody fears. This place I so desperately want to leave. I grew up in a small 2-bedroom apartment in Eastside San Jose. I grew up around so many people, each one with a story to tell, and each story I heard began with at least one thing to be grateful for. Sometimes I get confused with folks that constantly talk about oppression, have a whole essay that speaks about their struggle, and though I respect the pains and traumas we have all lived through, I can't help to think that deep down in all this misery and all this pain, we still have each other. If you ask anyone from my block about their lives, they will be honest with you. They will cry with you. But somehow, in some way, they will still manage to laugh with you. This is the greatest lesson I've learned from this ghetto-ass neighborhood. That you gotta make peace with your pain and live to hustle another day.